last login, middle login is not there. Once you have login there, your attendance is recorded.
ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ರನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು
Dr. Vishwakiran sir. Sir has completed his bachelor's in engineering in electronics and communication stream from Bangalore University. Sir has completed his master's in technology in computer science and engineering from Vishweshwaraya Technological University. Sir was a full-time PhD scholar between November 2013 to October 2016 at UVC Bangalore University. Sir is currently working as an assistant professor in Department of AI and ML branch in BMS Institute of Technology and Management, Bangalore. Sir has received the Best Paper Award at IEEE Indicon 2014. Sir has developed master degree course content in consultation with Dr. Richard Matthews Stallman, the father of open source. Sir has 18 plus years of experience in information technology and has 3 years of research experience spanning over multiple functions like development, training, content development, restructuring, upgradation, and formulation of lab experiments for practical implementation. Sir has handled various corporate training assignments for Wipro, HP, Samsung, Nokia, L&T, Sasken, Cisco, Texas Instruments, and Siemens. Sir has been involved in various activities such as client engagements, consulting, training, solution design with excellent report making and presentation skills. Sir has received appreciation from the director of Texas Instruments for conducting a 4-day modular workshop in embedded Android using BeagleBoard first time in India. Sir has successfully conducted a 6-day workshop in association with Texas Instruments and Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, USA. Sir has successfully trained professionals of Hitachi Storage Group Technologies Limited at Japan on advanced C++. We are very fortunate to have you as a resource person for our today's program, sir. Thank you very much, sir, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shruti, for the lengthy introduction. Dr. Sunil, sir, can we start?
Yes, sir. Right.
Okay. Before we start, let me check the setup, okay, whether participants can see these things. I would be sharing my hardware setup. As all of us know that there's going to be a demonstration of Raspberry Pi. Okay. I would be sharing the screen somewhat like this. I just wanted to check with you people, like, okay, is the setup visible?
Sir, it is not visible.
I think I'm not sharing the screen. Let me share the screen. Okay. So is this visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
So I'll be showing some of the circuit, and you can see that output. I'll let you know what it is. So good afternoon all the participants. Good afternoon everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. So let me know, okay, how many of you are active in the meeting. I'm just showing an image. I request all of you to write what comes to your mind when you look at this image. That shows, okay, how many of you are active right now. So I can understand it's an afternoon session after lunch.
Chat is disabled.
Sir, the chat is disabled, sir.
Yes, sir. Chat is disabled.
Oh.
Chat is
Students,
disabled.
sir, can it be enabled?
Chat is disabled.
Yeah, wait a moment. Okay. Yes.
Please enable it.
Yes. So I want this session to be interactive.
It's enabled.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you, sir.
Yeah, it's great. It's enabled now.
It's good that okay, many of you are active, even if it is an afternoon session. Thank you for your response. Yes. Okay. So thank you for all the responses. Okay, so a few of them are right, and so a few of them are given a different answer, or it may be a correct answer from the point of view people, but I was expecting the answer as cabinet. So why not CPU? Let me start with that itself. Okay, so if I show you the picture of house, okay, right? If there is an image, if you show the house picture, definitely not, even though there is a bedroom or bathroom, kitchen, right? You see this image, right? All of you are able to see. Okay. So cabinet is something like a house image. Okay, so we have various components inside that. And let us understand okay, the role of each component. Okay. So all of you know the size of the cabinet, right? What is the size of the cabinet? Maybe around, it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. Say maybe height of say 15 inch or 18 inch, 15 inch, so 5 inch, 5 inch by 18 inch. A big box would have seen that. Can you imagine a small box? Okay, so you can see my. Is it visible to you? The one which I'm holding. I think, okay, so you can see the size of the cabinet as well. Okay. So this is the cabinet which can be replaced, the one which I showed in the image. Okay, so you can replace that big box with this small box. So what is the size of this box? So hardly it's 3 inch and 1.5 inch. 3 inch by 1.5 inch is the size of this cabinet, the smaller form factor. Okay, so for which purpose I can use this? Let me show the setup. See, to form a computer, what and all I need quickly, like, okay, so hardly like 2 or 3 minutes to let us be interactive. That will give me an idea, like, okay, so what and all I should discuss. in a chat, okay, to form a computer, what and all we need. What is inside that cabinet? Hardware and software, just madam. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so processor, right? So from one Meghna, like processor, buses. Okay, it's good. Okay. Memory unit, processor, it's fine. Okay, so I'm getting good responses. It shows, okay, all of you are active. Thank you for that. See, meanwhile, okay, before I start my presentation, let me show this, how it is different from embedded system. I would like to know, okay, anyone have worked in embedded domain? So it's visible, like say you have a CPU, you have RAM, then you might have some memory devices. Okay, so I'll take 3 devices. Okay, so there are many devices. I will be taking only 3 devices for our understanding. Okay, so one more thing, let me add. So input output devices. To form a computer, at least we need these components, right? CPU, RAM, hard disk, and IO devices. So try to understand the role of each device. So that will make you to migrate. So suppose if you're new to embedded domain, okay, so let us see, like, do you have a CPU or hard disk or RAM and IO device, how it is connected. Okay, so the main agenda of today's session, okay, let me list out that agenda. Okay, so domains, okay, just orally I'll be telling you about the various domains that we normally work in industry and the types of development environment and the skill set required for you to get started with embedded domain. See, even though that today's title is wearable devices, it falls under which category, like, and which development environment. So what and all you need to know to get started with this environment. Okay, so that will be focusing on that, and the main agenda is to understand the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so we can play with Pi. Okay, that's the statement what I'm making right now. Okay, so it's not, once you start working with this, it will be like a toy. So you should treat Raspberry Pi as a toy rather than as a computing device. So we'll see, like, what and all you can do with this Raspberry Pi. Okay, so from the point of embedded software developer. Okay, see, when it comes to the domains, the various types of domains that are there. Okay, there are n number of domains. But quickly, like, to recap or understand, you can have something like application development, the system software development. So we have VLSI domain, so networking domain, the kernel development, the driver development. There are various types of development. So if someone looks at the job opportunities in the newspaper, you can see, you would have seen that advertisement saying, okay, we need people or engineers in so and so domain. Okay, so that gives you an idea of, okay, different types of domains. Now the domain which we are looking at is embedded system. So what is an embedded system and how it is different from your computer system? So we started with computer system, right? So we'll start with that itself. Let me start the slideshow. So, so even someone mentioned in the chat that cabinet is a combination of hardware and software. It's a right answer. So you take a PC, it's a combination of hardware and software, right? And what about embedded system? That is also a combination of hardware and software, right? I hope all of you agree with that. The point is, in the case of computer system, it is designed for a generic purpose. So why do we say computer system is designed for a generic purpose? When someone buys a PC or a laptop, okay, what falls under the computer system? your PC, your workstation, laptop, they all fall under generic computer system, which is designed for generic purpose. When I say generic purpose, if as a manufacturer of a PC, I may not be able to predict for which purpose the end user has bought that system. That means someone may use it for development, one may use it for entertainment, one may use it to store data as a database, someone will use it as a server to provide various services. But the usage varies from one user to another user, right? So definitely, someone may use it for entertainment purpose, for playing games. Okay, definitely we cannot predict as a manufacturer when someone buys a computer and a laptop. Whereas when you take an example of embedded system, which is designed for specific purpose. So what is embedded system? A combination of hardware and software which is designed for a specific purpose. To name a few, like there are hundreds of embedded devices we use in our day-to-day life, directly or indirectly. And on average, one may use more than 100 embedded devices, knowingly or unknowingly, right? Even if you take different components of computer system, say if you strip down or remove the various components that are there in computer system, each component behaves like an embedded device, right? So if you take a hard disk, you remove the hard disk. If you take hard disk alone, that will have a hardware as well as it will have software. If you take a RAM, that will have a hardware as well as software. So like that, various components would act like an individual embedded system. So if I have to define a computer system, I can say computer system is a collection of n number of embedded systems, right? So you have different subdomains in embedded system. Okay, so in generally, like we can say embedded system is an optimally designed hardware and which has dedicated software or firmware. So when I say optimally designed hardware, there is a less scope or no scope for expansion, right? If you take a PC, in a PC that the cabinet which we saw at the beginning has got a motherboard which will have an expansion slots. So what is the use of that expansion slot? We can add new devices. So it allows us to expand the capabilities of the device, whereas that will not be there in the case of embedded systems. It's optimally designed hardware, okay, right? And it will have a dedicated software. Hardly we have less scope for adding a software or a firmware, whereas that is changed by the vendor, right? So you would have bought a set-top box. In your day-to-day life activities, you won't change the software, right? It is, if at all there is an update, that update is done by the vendor. So many times you would have experienced when you're using a TV, which is connected to a set-top box, that there's a software update, and if you say yes, it will get updated. That's what you would have seen there. So the end user will not have a provision or option to change that software. Okay. So if you look at the distance look of an embedded system or any embedded system, it will have a CPU, it will have a memory, which will have the firmware, or it will have a small memory called EEPROM or a ROM, the various types of memories you would have come across. And it may not have human interface. It might take input from sensors. From last 2 days, we were hearing many times about sensors. So even Dr. Triveni Madam had spoken about sensors, and in one of the first session, the second session yesterday, you have seen that, right? The various functions of sensors, why we use sensors in wearable devices or embedded devices. Okay, and so once it takes input through sensors, it processes it and controls other devices through actuators. So this is the broader picture of any embedded system. Okay, right. So with this background, okay, I'd asked you to list out the devices, right? So what is the role of these 3 devices? Okay, so which we listed. Why we have RAM, say RAM and CPU and hard disk. Okay. Or when you power on your system, just try to recollect, when you power on your system, what will happen? Any idea? When you power on your laptop, what will happen? How the things are going to be started? From where the control will get initiated? How the software is started? You can put a message, okay, so that helps me, like, okay, I don't want to talk something which you already know. Okay. So bootloader boots the OS, it's fine. Okay, right, correct. Okay, someone has given the right answer, bootstrap program. Okay, so very good. So I'm getting good responses. So I got 2 responses. Okay, see, when you power on your system, okay, let me show you this. See, CPU has to do this its work, right? Okay, so where the OS would be stored, the OS is installed in hard disk, right? Your operating system will be there in hard disk. Okay, so when you power on system, okay, it may be you would have connected. How can I boot a system? It can be in a hard disk, or it can be some USB storage device, or it can be in a CD. It can be in different devices. Okay, so how CPU comes to know that OS is in hard disk or USB or CD? That is decided with the boot sequence. So at the time of the starting your system, you have an option to interrupt the normal boot sequence, and you can change that. So CPU is made to look for an operating system from any one of these devices. If it does not find operating system, it says unable to load an operating system, right? So the same thing happens in embedded devices as well. Okay, so you should know, like, the operating system is stored in OS. Okay, so what will happen during the boot time? The operating system will be loaded from hard disk to RAM. Okay, this is the point that you should understand. The software which is stored in hard disk is brought to RAM. Okay, now one simple basic question: why software needs to be loaded to RAM? Okay, so can anyone answer? See, software is a set of instructions. All of you know that, and that's a statement normally you people give whenever asked what is a software. It's a collection of several programs. What is a program? It's a collection of instructions. And why we to whom we give instructions? So instructions are written for whom? The program or the software what we write is nothing but a collection of instructions, right? Who is writing that instruction? As a programmer, we are writing, human being. Okay. Those instructions are meant for whom? Probably you all attended that one of the session yesterday, right? The third session, you would have got information about that. The instructions are meant for good. Yes, so processor, okay, so processor is CPU is a dumb device which cannot do any work on its own. Even though many of the times you would have learned CPU is a brain of a computer, it cannot do any work on its own, right? Unless an instruction is given from us, it won't do any work. So instructions has to be written, and that has to be first decoded and executed by CPU. Now the question is why it has to be placed in RAM. What is the reason? Because anyway that instruction is there in hard disk. Why can't I take it from hard disk? Why can't CPU fetch that instruction and take the instruction from hard disk? Why it has to fetch from RAM? Any response? I didn't get any response. And even someone can unmute and tell me, like, RAM is faster memory. Good answer. Okay, so RAM is faster. Okay, fine. Sequence of commands, okay, the Meghna has given answer as RAM is faster, it's fine. Sequencing of commands for one by one instruction, okay. So Mr. Vijay has given that answer. Okay, see, if I don't worry about the speed, okay, even if I want to run a hello world program, let it take half an hour for me. I don't mind spending time. Can I bypass RAM? Can I take the data from hard disk directly or any storage device? It may be a hard disk or USB or a CD. The answer is no. Why it's no? See, CPU can fetch instruction by instruction, right? So RAM is byte addressable. RAM is what? Byte addressable. Hard disk is, we can say, it's block addressable. What is block addressable? A group of instruction is stored in a block. A block is made up of what? A number of bytes. Say the block size could be like, say, the 1K or 2K or 4K. So at a time I can fetch 1K or 2K or 4K information from this hard disk. Okay, whereas RAM, CPU is designed to fetch byte by byte. So instruction by instruction. So it can address 1 byte. Okay, the least addressing unit can be like, say, 1 byte. See why I'm telling you all these things. Okay, so when you learn about embedded system, you should know where the software will go and sit, where it gets fitted, what are the different types of software is required to build a system. Okay, and let's understand how it is related to our Raspberry Pi, which is the center of attraction for today's discussion. Okay, so let's explore, okay, the role of the hard disk, which device acts as a hard disk in the case of Raspberry Pi, and what about RAM and CPU. Okay, right? So has anyone already worked on Raspberry Pi? Already done that? For decoding. So, okay. I didn't get any response, so that indicates anyone already worked on Raspberry Pi? Have already set up the system for development environment? Before we go with that, okay, see, I'll skip this part of embedded system. I'll come to that Raspberry Pi to understanding the different domains. So these are the subdomains of embedded system. I'll not go deeper into this. You people are already familiar with these applications. Embedded system domains, if you take, so robotics or automotive sector. You see, one point I would like to highlight here. The older days in the car, you had more mechanical devices, right? Now, if you take the cars, you have more electronics devices than the mechanical devices or mechanical parts. Okay, so that's the power of the software and hardware in today's world. Okay, so these are the different types of subdomains in embedded system. Okay, if someone wants to work in this domain, okay, so what they should acquire, okay, how they can get started. Okay, let's look at that. So 1 minute. I think already it's let me start the slideshow. Okay, I think it's already there. So when it comes to the types of development environment, so if you're new to this embedded system development environment, try to understand the role of this two categories. Okay, so we can broadly classify the development environment with respect to embedded system, because one is native development and another one as cross development. What is this native development? The kind of development environment you do with a PC. So you write a software by using a PC, and you develop that software on the same PC, and you're going to execute it on the same PC or same environment. Most of the time, that's what we do. We develop a software using a PC, and we're going to execute it. Okay. So the point to be understood here is the development environment and the execution environment both remains same. That type of environment we can call it as a native development environment. The other one, with respect to embedded system, we can say it as a cross development environment. What is this cross development environment? So we have a machine which is used to develop a software. See, you have seen many wearable devices, okay, right? Maybe a Google Glass or a Fitbit. The various are it may be like a smart camera where you can wear and capture the images. Okay, in all those cases, okay. So if you want to develop a software for those devices, okay, so what kind of environment you need? Definitely you need a PC or a laptop to develop a software, and that system can be referred as host machine. A host machine which is used to which is used for development purpose. Okay, so you need to have a fair understanding of how to set up this host machine. A nightmare for an embedded system developer is to set up this host machine from scratch. So if you want to work on any embedded devices, irrespective of how many years of experience you have, when you want to work on a new board, definitely it will consume a lot of time. Okay, so you need to figure out, okay, what are the tool chains you need, the various software that is required to work on that board, okay, or embedded devices. You need to have a fair understanding of how to set up that system. I told you, right? It's a nightmare, definitely a nightmare for any embedded system developer when they start working on a very new board. Okay. So this is the host machine, and this is the target machine. So what is this target machine? You can also call it as a target device. The target device is the final device or embedded device. It could be a setup. You can just imagine all those embedded devices you have come across. Maybe a setup box or a smartwatch. It can be a smartwatch or a basic phone. Okay, right? Or it may be a washing machine or a refrigerator or even a projector. They all fall under this embedded system, right? Because they are designed for specific purpose. So if someone wants to work on this, want to develop a software and put it under the target machine, okay. So what you have to know, you write a software using this host machine, okay, and build that software and transfer that software through some communication medium. Okay, so it may be USB or a serial port, or wirelessly you can transfer the data from host to target. Okay, so there are many options that we have in today's development environment. Okay, so the target machine. So what is this target machine which I'm showing you now? That is nothing but the Raspberry Pi. So what is the environment that is there in the Raspberry Pi and this host machine? Most of you would have already known. Usually we use which processor in the case of host machine or PC? The popular processor being used in desktops or workstations. So definitely it's Intel based, right? How about the embedded domain? In embedded system, which processor is preferred? That was your yesterday session. We had the third session on ARM. So all of you remember that. So ARM, okay, so ARM has acquired the major market share in embedded domain. So most of the embedded systems is designed using ARM, probably like the speaker has already told you about the importance of ARM, right? So this target machine is based on the ARM processor. So that's why it's called cross development. The environment that is available in host machine is totally different from the target machine. So whenever you compile a code, right, let me take a simple compilation process, what you do in your C program. You write a program, you compile it. So why do we compile it? Because the processor cannot understand the high-level language. So you have to convert it to the language in which the CPU is going to understand, right? So what type of compiler you use? Use something known as native compiler, which will compile the code for that processor. If you are using i7 or i5, i3, it's going to convert to the language which that i7 or i5 understands. That type of compilers are known as native compilers. And if you want to develop a software or compile the code for the target, you need the cross compiler, what is known as cross compiler. So what is that cross compiler? A compiler which will compile the code for the different environment. So you develop a software here, but you compile it for the different machine. Okay. So we'll come to this target machine shortly. Okay, so once understanding the role of the embedded system developer, what and all you need to know if you want to build a software for this target machine or this cross development environment. Okay. So I've taken particularly like embedded Linux development. Okay. So why it's Linux? Okay, so because I'm going to demonstrate okay, how you can load a Linux onto this Raspberry Pi. Okay. See, the first step in building a software for the embedded system, setting up the host machine. So what you should do here, you should figure out the target board which we are going to work and try to get the tool chain. So if you look at the product description or the manual, so whenever you buy any board, it comes with the documents, right? Various documents. Okay. So you need to get out of those documents, the reference manual or the user, you get something known as user guide or reference manual in different names. You should get all those reference materials related to that board. Okay. So nowadays, okay, most of the vendors who manufacture this hardware will provide the necessary reference manual. From that manual, one can figure out how you can set up the host machine. The host machine here, the host can be a Windows or Windows-based system, or it could be a GNU Linux-based machine, or it may be a Mac. So it may be different host machine. So once you understand, decide okay, on which host machine you are going to work, first of all, you need to get to know whether there is a support for that host or not. So simply, see, that is very important. When you buy a board, when you get a new board, now I'm taking an example of Raspberry Pi. In general, I'm telling you this. Whenever you figure out a board, you need to first identify which host is suitable for you. Otherwise, later you regret because all the necessary software may not be available at one place. Then, as I told you earlier, right, it will kill your time and you will reach that frustration level. It will be high when you start realizing that the necessary software is not available. So, is a right. Choosing a right host machine is also important by figuring out the target machine. Okay. So once you identified that, okay, so you install the necessary software, okay, and this is the another big challenge for any embedded developer. So building something known as the cross tool chain. So what is a tool chain? It's a collection of various tools. So when you want to build a software, okay, right? Or when you compile a code, you need, you say build, right? So what and all will happen during the build stage? So it's going to perform the pre-processing stage, the compilation and assembling, linking, loading. So you have various stages in building the software. So you compile it, you get an assembly code that has to be converted to machine code, which is done by the assembler. Then you get some object file and you ask linker to link the various Okay. Various files you get are various modules. You club all those modules to generate a single executable file. Okay. A project is not made up of one single file. Okay. Remember. Okay. I don't know how many of you have worked on this. If at all you say like C programming and all. Okay. At least you try to build a C program from multiple source files. You should not just write one program and compile it. You should build a C program from multiple programs. Say module 1, module 2, module 3. In that way, you get to know how the tool chains can be used. What is the role of these different tools? Okay, so this is very important stage in the case of building the host machine. Sometimes the readily available tool chain would be there in their respective websites. If you don't have the readily available tool chain, you may be required to build the tool chain from scratch. In fact, you may be required to compile the compiler itself. Probably if you get into that development environment, you will appreciate that. Okay, this is the second stage of the embedded system developer. Okay. Next, using the bootloader. Okay, see, again, the bootloader, someone mentioned the bootloader. So what is the role of this bootloader? See, this bootloader is a software which is there in your hard disk. If you have realized, okay, so when you have multiple operating system, right? If you have multiple operating system, it would list, do you remember, say it will say Linux or Windows. Okay. So it will list. You can select which OS you want to load when you have dual booting environment. So once you select, it's going to load the appropriate software. Who does that work? It's a bootloader. So bootloader is the one which displays the information to the user, and once the user selects the operating system, you can see here the OS. It can be Windows based or Linux based, and so on. Okay, and somewhere the bootloader is also stored in this hard disk. Okay, and that will be loaded to RAM. Okay, so that's the role of the loader. Okay, so again, in the case of embedded environment, the bootloader may be available, or you may be required to build a bootloader, or you may have to customize the bootloader. Most of the times you may not build from scratch. You may be required to customize the bootloader for your need or for your board. But definitely the source code is available for everyone to do that. So one of the popular bootloader is a U-boot, or you have Red Boot. Okay, so Grub, you have bootloader. In the case of desktop environment, you figure out, okay, so which bootloader is required for you, and each one is a separate specialized field. See, when I say someone is working on an embedded system, 10 years or 15 years one would have spent only on setting up that building a tool chain, or 10 years one would have specialized in bootloader alone. So you cannot expect someone to be mastered in all the stages, but then definitely they'll be knowing the overall development environment. But after you having understanding the various stages, you should master in one of these stages. Okay, that's the need of the industry also. Okay. So next, after identifying the right bootloader, or figuring out how to build your own bootloader, or customizing the bootloader. See, if you in the case of bootloader, you get to know, okay, what are the information that has to be displayed to the user. These things will be very handy in the case of embedded development environment. Okay. So next stage would be identifying the kernel source, the source code required for the operating system. Okay, you may add or you may remove, you may get the kernel source from say in the case of Linux, there is a website called kernel.org. I'll let you know about, show some websites where you can get the information. In the case of Linux, its kernel is available in the form of source code of various versions. You can get it from kernel.org. You download the kernel, okay, and you can build that. So before building, one can configure the kernel. See, once you get the kernel, it will have all the components. One can customize the kernel for your need. You can configure the kernel based on your need. Probably like tomorrow, have one more session. At that time, we will look at how you can make use of the kernel. Or if at all you are new to kernel, don't worry right now. Okay, so tomorrow I will brief you on that. Okay. So after configuring the kernel, what is the next stage? Okay. So, 1 minute. After configuring the kernel, you have to compile the kernel where you get kernel image. Okay. So once you get the kernel image, if successful, you get, see, sometimes you want to compile the kernel, it would take say 30 minutes or 40 minutes, depending on your configuration and the system configuration. So compile the kernel, you get the kernel image, then you have various file system to have a support for the storage devices or various memory devices and so on. Okay, so you identified the right file system. Again, here you may be required to build a file system of your choice. When I say file system, what and all it will have. So various commands that is going to be supported for that system. Okay, so are necessary the storage hierarchy. So you would have customized it. How information is stored. All those things can be decided in the case of building the file system. So this is the another phase of building the system. Okay, so you have like say flash file system, a flash memory. This is very much required for the embedded system developer. Flash memory, where it may be like EEPROM or ROM. The storage, the non-volatile memory. Okay, so CORDA comes under this flash file system. So there is a software which will require to develop or build to have a support of those flash devices. Okay, then the need for the third-party libraries. If you want to develop a software or you want to run an application, you need various libraries which needs to be part of the entire system. The software layers which is required, you identify the various libraries that is required for your system, okay, and bundle it. Once you do this, okay, third-party libraries added, you can add applications. So one may have to develop applications. So you develop applications which makes use of that third-party library, and so now your application is ready. Okay. So the kernel, the file system, the library, and app, all these things will be bundled in single package. You can put it in a single package, and when you want to start a system or you want to install a software, that software which you are going to install, I don't know how many of you have installed a software for your desktop or even for embedded devices. What type of extension normally it comes? If you want to make your device as a bootable device, what type of file extension you need? So normally, when you want to download a Linux, if someone has installed Ubuntu, can anyone answer? So usually we prefer, okay, so ISI image. That depends on your the image builder as well. Okay, so I'll show you that. Okay, so how to build from a scratch. Okay, so not building the image. Okay, how to write image into the software. So these are the various stages of building embedded Linux system. Okay. Now, where it gets fitted, how it is relevant to our wearable devices or even embedded devices. Okay. So what is the size of our variable devices? It's going to be a small size, right? So let me show you the Raspberry Pi, which I am going to demonstrate it today. I think, let me take. Just a minute, I'll reconnect. I think it is corrupted. Okay, so 1 minute. Okay. It might take some time. Okay, I will show you here itself. Let's see whether it's connected.
Sir, you can share, otherwise you can log in with your mobile, sir. So
Yeah,
you can use the camera of that, sir, just to show the components.
okay, I'll do that. This is easier. Okay, that's also a good idea. Like we'll do that. Okay. 1 minute. I think it's getting started. Okay. Let me switch the camera mode.
So can I make that co-host, sir?
Yeah, please do that. I'm not able to switch the camera mode here.
Yes, sir. Okay. Sir.
Shall I? Do I need to relog in now?
Sunil, sir, can you make sir's co-host, sir? I'm a
I
co-host.
made
No, you made,
it.
sir?
Yeah.
No, sir, not that one, sir. In one, another one is there, sir.
The mobile device.
The mobile
That's
device, sir.
also. Okay,
Yes,
that's I'll
sir.
do it.
Okay, now I think I'm able to switch. So people can see the setup. So closer. Now is it visible?
Sir, I made a post.
Yeah, thank you, Professor.
Sir, you need to stop sharing this screen and you need to, I think this screen is visible for us, sir.
Okay.
You need to share that screen.
How about now, ma'am? I think others, it's.
It's not shared, sir. It's not visible, sir.
Okay, 1 minute. Yeah. I think now it's visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. See, anyway, I'll show
Visible,
the.
visible.
See, if you recollect, this is your Raspberry Pi 0 board. Okay, you can call this as a single board computer. Why we call it as a single board computer? It has all the components which is required for a computer. Okay, it has a CPU. You can see here where I'm pointing my finger. Okay, so the processor. Where is the hard disk? Can anyone identify this? This is a SD card where I'm showing you, right? Pointing this. This acts as a hard disk. And what about the IO devices? Okay, so I have connected a dongle. There's one USB. There are two USB ports. I've connected a dongle. From there, I can access. I can connect the keyboard and mouse. So I have a one dongle which connects both keyboard as well as mouse. Okay, and you can see this the HDMI port which is connected to the display system. So which is the display system I'm using here? I'm using a projector. Okay, so you can see the complete setup here. Okay. So if I show the environment, I have an input devices like keyboard and mouse, and the projector which acts as an output device. So what you need to understand here, to form a PC, you need IO devices, right? And RAM, hard disk, and the processor. So the processor, RAM, hard disk, everything is placed in single board. That's why we call it as single board computer. And the connector, what you see here, okay. Do you know what I have connected? I have connected a camera. So do you know the size of the device? So the size of the device is, as I mentioned, is less than 3 inch, or almost 3 inch. Say if you have eaten the bourbon biscuit, so it's almost the size of this biscuit size. Okay, that's the size of computer which is available today, and definitely you can wear this. You can convert this. See, if you have if you're going to use a case, something like this, you can make it as a wearable computer. You can convert the Raspberry Pi Zero into what? The wearable computer. And I'll shortly show you the configuration, how you can build, what are the software that you need, the steps involved in building a software, or board bring up, we call it as a board bring up, or how do you give a life to the Raspberry Pi. Okay, and that's the next step. So let me switch over to the PC screen. So is my PC screen visible, ma'am, now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And give me a minute. Now I need to connect it to a common network. 1 minute, I may be off. Okay, so
Okay, okay, sir.
just a minute, because my Raspberry Pi is not in the same network. Okay, I have to put it in the same network. If I disconnect, within a minute, I'll be back. Is it visible? I'm. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible. Sir, you need to unmute, sir. Okay.
How about now, ma'am?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir. You're audible also.
Okay. See, since I'm not able to show you the output of this Raspberry Pi, what I've done, there is a software called VNC. Okay. So VNC server will be running on the Raspberry Pi, which will allow you to stream the screen. You can share the screen of Raspberry Pi in my laptop. Now I'm trying to connect it to the Raspberry Pi. Is this visible, right?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay. So this is the full-fledged computer. Okay. See, you would have used a Linux, right? Is there any difference? What I do, I'll just demonstrate the power of this Raspberry Pi, and I'll tell you like where you can apply it for the variable devices or embedded system environment, for which purpose you can use it. So this is the command prompt. All of you are familiar with in Linux. If you have done worked on Linux environment, you can write one. So okay, already written, I think. Okay. There's one program where you can compile. Okay. So this. Okay. So where I'm working here. Okay. So on which system I'm working? I'm working on the same board which I showed you. A small device. It acts as a PC. The size is very small, but still you can use it as one full-fledged computer. Most of the programming languages you can work on this: C, C++, Python. Okay, and it also has. Okay, my camera is visible? No, like okay. So the one which I showed you, I think it has connected a camera. Yeah, it was disconnected. Okay, so this is the camera module. Is it visible? The camera. The camera was not started. Okay, so this is the camera module which can be connected to this Raspberry Pi. Okay. So how we can use this camera like? Yes. You need to reconnect it. Let's try one more time. I have to reconnect this. That means the last time. Now you can see here. Earlier it was giving some error. See into this CL. Okay, so where it is there, it would have captured an image. Let me show you that. So in home folder, I created a subfolder called image. Yes, you can see there. And I gave the name as what? UC demo. So it's not clear, but you can see that image captured. So you can also configure. I'll let you know okay, how you can set up this environment. A small device, so you can wear this device and have a camera, a small camera, something like this, and you can capture the movements. Okay. So how you can do this? Okay, what and all you need to know to get started. Okay, so for the Raspberry Pi, so that's what we would like to explore now. Let me give some steps. Okay. So you should remember that the stages which we was involved in building the embedded Linux system. So first and foremost thing, what you're required to do is, what are the components you need to work on this environment? You need a Raspberry Pi of any variant. Okay, so I had shown you the Raspberry Pi Zero because it was relevant to our workshop theme, that is wearable devices. Let me see whether I can show you this another one. So this is Raspberry Pi 3, which I am having it. So it's like a credit card sized computer. If you're new to this, even this can be used as a full-fledged computer. Okay. So now, so you can get out of any one of these boards. Okay. Raspberry Pi, it can be like 0 or 3 or 4, the latest version you can have it. The next, what you need, say you need a micro SD card, okay, and then card reader, okay. So if you have this, okay, so the SD card and the card reader, so you need to have just something like this. You would have already familiar with the card reader, right? The small one. Now you can see that I have inserted the SD card. This SD card acts as a hard disk for our Raspberry Pi. The micro SD card, what I'm showing you, act as a hard disk. What I'm going to do, I have to install the Raspberry Pi into my SD card. After that, you can disconnect from this pen drive, this card reader, and insert it into your Raspberry Pi and boot it. It gets booted like a normal PC. Okay. So what you have to do is just I'm showing you. I've shown the capabilities of Raspberry Pi. Okay, and next, how to write an image of this Raspberry Pi into the SD card. Very simple. So you have you get out of. Okay, let me write that step as well. How to write image into micro SD card. Okay. So what you have to do is, say there are various softwares which you can use to see write image into that that SD card. So one of the software would be like Win32 disk imager. So you can search in internet. I've already downloaded here in my PC. Let me see whether I can see this. Yeah, it's there, right? Win32 disk imager. Okay, so you can launch this Win32 disk imager. Okay, I think it's already installed in my case. Let me see, it's already installed. This is the software which you can use to write OS into the SD card. Or you can also use this Balena HR, which was recommended by Raspberry Pi. Any of these softwares you can use. So it's already there in my case. It is installed in my system. So it's a pretty much straightforward procedure. Okay. So you can see this. I've selected the F drive. What is there in the F drive? Let me show you this. This is my PC environment. You have like, okay, I've connected my mobile device. This is the hard disk partitioned into a different partition: C drive, D drive, and E drive. And this is the format. Okay. So I think it is showing 200 MB. Okay. So here is the problem. Okay, I am not able to write here. Okay, I'll let you know. This is the problem you may face when you're writing the second time. Okay. See, you need to get out of this Raspberry Pi. image. Okay, so from where can I get that Raspberry Pi image? You have to go to the respective website. Okay, the Raspberry Pi website. From there, you can download the software which is required to is required for installation. Okay, Raspberry Pi. You can go to the software section, raspberrypi.org, and Raspberry Pi OS is there, right? So it is based on Linux, not the and download. Okay, so you can imager, right? You can also use this imager. Any one of these three you can use. Many more such softwares are there. Download for Windows. Okay, so this is the equivalent to Win32 disk imager. And after doing that, you can download the OS, the Raspberry Pi OS for my system. Okay, so you can see here Raspberry Pi desktop or Raspberry Pi OS, different thing you can download. So it would take some time for me to download it. So you can see the various versions of Raspberry Pi. That's almost like 2 GB. You can download that software, and once you download, I'll show you how it would be. I've already downloaded in my case. So this. So you need to, it's a zip file, you need to extract it. I think I already extracted and I kept it in one place. Okay, so you can see here. So once you extract, you get this .img extension or ISO file. Okay, so you can have this. And this is the image which has all those software which we discussed. So this image, can you people recollect what and all we learned while building a Linux system? That bootloader, kernel, application, file system, all those softwares are bundled into this single image. So it's like if I want to eat some dish, okay, say in South India, in Bangalore, okay, so Rava Idli is famous. I can get the readily available Rava mix, right? Or if I want to eat some, if I wish to have some dish, I can go to hotel and eat the ready one. So that is, this image is something like that. It's readily available. Suppose if you want to do it from scratch, you want to cook yourself, you want to dirty your hand, you want to, if the taste does not suit you, then you are required to build your own image. And that is the kind of work people can have like if they do it from scratch. Okay, and this is a kind of work we can encourage the students to get involved. Okay, they get to know how things are going to happen from the scratch. So most of the times what we people do, like we take some ready code and we may not get to know how things are happening at the background. Probably like tomorrow's session, I would like to highlight on that. Okay, so how we can build a software, or what are the layers, software layer interaction, and how OS layer is interacted with the application, and the type of applications that we can build on top of this. Okay, so yeah, you have to. This is the software which is required. Which is readily available. You can otherwise you can build the image from scratch. Okay, so you get this and browse this image. Okay, so this file, this image you can write. Okay, but in my case it may not be able to write because the size is hardly 200 MB available. Okay. So what it says, writing to a physical device can corrupt. Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's saying it may not, it may overwrite the previous content. I say yes. Okay, so it has initiated. Okay, fine. I think it is it has reformatted and writing it. That's it. So it would take some time to write. You can see the progress of the image being written onto the SD card. Once it says successful, simply what you have to do, you have to unplug that, remove that SD card from the card reader and insert it in the place where you can, where the provision to, like here, you can see this, right? The SD card. You insert that SD card, connect all the peripherals. Okay. So peripherals, what are the peripherals it supported? Let me quickly show that. Okay, I think we're running short of time. In 2 minutes, I'll show you that. So this is a SD card holder where you can insert your SD card, and this is the mini HDMI which is available on the Raspberry Pi. In the case of Raspberry Pi 3, Raspberry Pi 0, mini HDMI is available, where you may need to have a converter from mini HDMI to the full HDMI. Okay, and this is the processor as well as the RAM. Here, both are placed in a single chip. Okay, RAM and the CPU is integrated in a single chip. Okay, so we say like SoC, system on chip. Okay, and there are 2 ports for USB. One for power up. You can connect through some you would have used for mobile phone charging. The same cable can be used to power up your Raspberry Pi 0, and they have some OTG. Okay, so micro USB data port. Through this, you can use a converter like OTG converter from micro to USB and connect various USB devices through this. You can have a hub to have a support for multiple devices and do that. Okay, and this is the camera port where you can connect a camera. You can have I had shown you that camera, right? So that can be inserted here. Combined this image. Okay, so you can capture images or video can be captured through this camera. And here you can find there is a GPIO header. That's a 40-pin GPIO general purpose input IO ports. So you can connect various devices. Like it could be various sensors you can connect. You can connect different devices. Okay, so through this GPIO, like, where IO operations can be done through this. So the expansion slot. You may have to have additional expansion pins for that. Or else, if you go for this Raspberry Pi 3 or higher one, I'll go for bigger image. You can see this one, the latest port. You can see this port. So on board you have the 4 USB port. One is for 2 or 3.0 and 2 or 2.0. Okay, the high speed one 3.0, and you have USB-C type connector for power supply, and you have 2 HDMI mini micro ports. Okay, 2 ports are there. You can connect 2 displays here, 2 monitors for your applications, and you have pins, expansion pins already available here, and this is your processor and memory. So on board it comes with 2 GB or 4 GB or 8 GB RAM. So it can be used as a full-fledged computer. For someone wants to set up a low-cost device, a low-cost desktop, they can go for this. And okay, what is the use of this Raspberry Pi in a wearable domain? See, it can be used as a computing device. Okay, so you have a Bluetooth Fitbit which takes the data, and that will not have a capability to send the data onto the cloud, or you want to store it somewhere. or you want to process it. Once you acquire a data, you have to process it, right? Where can you process it? That processing can be done on this type of board. Okay, so this board can be used as a computing device itself. Not only it can be used as an embedded device, it acts as both embedded device as well as computing device. Okay, so if you want to get started, because the one major pointer, the references are the pointers from where you can explore more. One is Raspberry Pi, this website, you can go there. You get all the information necessary for you to get started. Okay, it's pretty much straightforward as well. Okay, with this background, okay, I think you should be able to do it. Okay, so how you can take it forward? This, and they have a good support where document support. So you just search for the books, the Raspberry Pi books, the documentation. It's a get started book is there. You can start from scratch. Okay, or the advanced, you want to work on camera, the readily available guide is there. Okay, so you can do a lot of things with, I think I have downloaded. It's an open source and you can do it. Okay, you can have your own guide. Okay, see something like this. You want to work on the, say, camera, you can do that. A camera guide is there, how to use that camera. Since there's a limitation of time, I'm not able to go through all these documents. I will leave it to you. Based on your interest, you can explore more on that. Okay, and once you are done with this installation, let me see whether they still have a connection. Okay, so the one part I wanted to show you that. So you can configure your Raspberry Pi. This is the output of the Raspberry Pi device. So you go to this preference. I have a commands to do that. Pi configuration. So it supports various devices. Okay, so you can see this interfaces. If you want to have a support for camera, you can enable it or you can disable that. You want to connect it from a remote machine, you can make this Raspberry Pi itself as a server. Many of you would have used a software called PuTTY, right? PuTTY for a remote connection. You can use that to connect to this. You can use through SSH. You can connect and do that. Okay, so I can see a serial port. The various port support is there. Okay, so various options are there. Probably like, okay, so tomorrow I'll I needed some time to demonstrate the software that you can develop. Okay, the kind of software what you can develop. Probably if time permits, I'll revisit this part tomorrow. Okay, what and all you can do with this software development perspective. Since you are already reached this 4 o'clock, I don't want to make you people to wait for a long time. Okay, so even the skill set I will explore more on tomorrow. Small topic is left out. Since it's relevant, we will revisit tomorrow once again. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, let me know. Or if you wanted to know more about this, let me know. If possible, I will try to revisit tomorrow. I have 2 sessions tomorrow for that Wear OS and Android. At that time, I can spend some time on this part, something which is left out today. Let me know if you have any questions. Pratima madam, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here only, sir.
Is that fine, ma'am? Okay, so if I thought of covering one more part, okay, since there is no time.
It's okay, sir.
Okay,
Tomorrow in your 2 sessions we are having,
yes,
no, sir.
yes, yes,
2 sessions. You can go ahead with that. Any queries from participants?
You can ask your queries, or else you can post your queries in your chat box.
Sir, I think no more queries, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Vishakant, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. No problem. Okay, we'll
Okay,
have
sir.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Tomorrow we'll meet, sir. Tomorrow we'll meet.
Sure, sure, sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your session, sir.
Welcome.
Shall we end the painting, sir?
Yes, sir. Okay, shall I stop presentation? Let me show.
Stop sharing, screen sharing.
Okay. I think it stopped now.
Sir, one more information to participants. Sunil-
Yeah, I had one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir. Go ahead.
Tomorrow, if I thought of working on this Vero, if they have a setup ready, even parallel they can do it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
I will share the link to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir. Yes, sir.
requirement
So, sir,
is
I'll put
they
it in group.
should install Android Studio.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
If they've installed Android Studio with emulator support, even whatever the examples that I demonstrate, they can try it parallelly.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Sir, kindly share what and all the components, requirements, and requirements for tomorrow, sir. Definitely, I'll share in a group, sir, in FDP group.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I'll have one information for all the participants. Tomorrow, in the third session, Kiran sir is handling stress management session. During that session, before that session held, before 1.5 hours or 2 hours, you should have very light food, or if you won't have food also, will be okay. This is actually an instruction given by Dr. Kiran Kesa. He is going to handle stress management for you people, and he'll be taking through pranayama. That's why he instructed participants don't take, means if you are willing to take, you can take light food before 2 hours. Before 2 hours. That's what actually sir instructed in a third session. Tomorrow, third session. And if you want to practice, you can parallelly practice with him also. This is what actually instruction from Kiran sir. Yes, participants, thank you. Thank you one and all. Sunil sir, you can wind up the
Yeah, then the next.